All right, let me also welcome on board to the discussion. We have with us Mr. Kumar Subbiah, the CFO at CEAT, and we've also got Mr. Keshav Bhajanka, Executive Director at CenturyPly Boards, joining in. Good to have you both on board. Mr. Subbiah, I just want to start off with this overall potential for India. We've got transparency, scalability, quality, and tech when it comes to really capitalizing on manufacturing. How are you looking at the overall picture when it comes to the India manufacturing story versus some of the other countries?
India is a good place for manufacturing and exporting tires. So particularly in auto ancillary space, we see a huge opportunity for India. And therefore, from our standpoint, our growth rates that we have assumed for the next 3 to 5 years is certainly higher than our growth rates assumption for our local sale, both to original equipment manufacturers and the replacement. In the tire space, India is in a good position because most of the raw materials that go into the manufacture of tires is available locally in India. And we can compete well with China, as China doesn't have a natural rubber local sourcing opportunity, and therefore we would be able to compete well with them. And on quality side as well, India has a good perception. So therefore, matching both quality as well as in terms of our ability to manufacture tires at a competitive price. So India is really in a good position to take advantage of the global supply demand situation.
Ashish, I'll get closing comments from you, which is that let's use the GDP as a benchmark here. The GDP is expected to grow in the region of about 7 to 8%. I add back inflation, that makes it a nominal GDP of about 12 to 13%. If I look at fine companies like Thermax, they will gain 2 or 3% more than the GDP. So can I say 15 to 18% growth for Thermax, like a big picture growth for Thermax for next 3 to 5 years is given?
I don't know if it's given, but that is definitely the number to aspire for and to do better. Yeah. I don't think anything's given. A lot of it depends on many things that will unfold. But as an aspiration and to aspire to meet those and to do better than those, I think that's a fair ask.
So I'll not be fair away from the mark when I say that next 3 to 5 years for Thermax and for the sector which you represent, अच्छे दिन नहीं, बहुत अच्छे दिन
है. I will rely on your judgment again and again. I would say where I come from is at least a focus on capabilities, which is perhaps easily the most exciting time in the last couple of decades on the kinds of newer things that we can bring to the market and an appreciation and a demand for those kinds of things. I think if the larger economy continues to do well, the rest of the growth will also come through. Yeah.
All right, Ashish, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Subbiah, I go back to a very basic question in the tire sector. The tire sector has had two issues. A, margins are not in line with what the other manufacturing companies enjoy. There is deep cyclicality because of rubber and because of what's happened to crude prices. And second problem has been cheap dumping from China, at least in the CV space. How do you think both these concerns will be addressed in coming years for the tire sector?
I do agree. Raw material is anywhere between 60 and 70% of our turnover. So, and therefore it has some impact on our margins. In general, what happens when the raw material prices move up very quickly? Okay, there is always a lag. So therefore, it takes anywhere between 3 and 6 months for us to pass on the incidence of any increase in raw material cost to our customers in the form of a price increase. And we also tend to wait for a period of time before, just to understand whether any movement in raw material prices is permanent in nature or short-term in nature. So therefore, in the previous 2 years, when the raw material prices moved up by 50%, so it took a while for us to pass it on to our customers in the form of pricing. Some part of it we passed on, some part of it, when the market corrected, we were able to get back to our earlier levels of margins. So therefore, there is some element of influence that the commodity prices have on margins, particularly when the movements of raw material prices are steep within a short period of time. Coming back to your second question, okay, As far as India is concerned, tire industry is concerned, it is competitive, okay, on a global scale, and scale plays a very important role. So we would certainly be able to, even despite not so optimistic global macroeconomic situations, India would be in a good position to take advantage of it, considering the base is small. So therefore, we are in a good position to grow disproportionately in the international market compared to the local market.
Right. Mr. Subbiah, we're looking at the EV policy come closer now, and we're looking at some of the large global players perhaps entering India as well. Just as an industry, be it EV or ICE engine vehicles, tires would always be used. What is the scalability for the industry per se? What are we staring at in the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay, no, I think I missed responding to a previous question on commercial tires. So as far as the commercial tires go, the import from China has been limited. Okay, the government had in the past introduced some anti-dumping on imports, and that helped in terms of bringing a level playing field for the Indian market. Okay, so there has not been major dumping, but there has been some amount of regular arrival of imported or commercial tires from either from Southeast Asian market or from Chinese region. It is predominantly because of fact that we are in an inverted duty structure regime, whereby tires come at 5-6% kind of a duty, and whereas raw material suffers higher rate of duty, anywhere between 15 and 25%. Of late, we have not seen too much of imports from China, but however, it is we need some help in terms of bringing some level playing field from the government side, so that either we get to import the materials at a lower rate of duty, or the tires come at comparable rate of duty. The second question you're on EV. See, we can use our existing equipment to produce tires that are fitted into EV vehicles. However, there are differences between the tires that go into ICE vehicles compared to EV vehicles. So recipes are different. Okay, and basically the raw materials that go into the recipe in case of EV look different, because we have to meet the rolling resistance related requirements, noise drive related requirements. So our plant and equipment that we have in all our machines can take care of the requirements. However, any change in recipe has some impact with respect to upstream capacity. So therefore, little bit of planning is required. However, we don't see significant impact of any significant increase in EV tires with respect to our capacity. We have created enough flexibility to produce tires should the EV volumes go up steeply.
Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. So we are moving really sectors. The theme is manufacturing, from solar energy to capital goods, tire, and now plywoods. Keshav Bhajanka joins us now, Executive Director with CenturyPly. Keshav, must say I always like your ads on ET Now. Very innovative. The last one was Manish Malhotra, right? Nothing's come after that, has it?
I think, good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. I think the Pratik Gandhi one perhaps was the last one.
That was before the Manish Malhotra, right?
So we're going to be thrilling you with something new soon.
Well, I look forward to that, at least on ET Now and all the other forums. Okay, now, how would you like me to introduce CenturyPly boards? Is it a play on manufacturing? Is it a play on aspirational Indian? Or is it a big beneficiary of China Plus One?
I think the most apt way would be to say that we are a play on the housing sector in India. We're a play on the real estate boom that is taking place, and we're a play on India shining. So I think considering that we are in various product categories, plywood, laminates, MDF, particle board, all of which go into the real estate sector and the housing sector, we would be a real estate plus one play.
Change for your sector post-COVID in terms of supply chain, in terms of demand?
I think post-COVID, a number of strategic shifts have taken place. Firstly, if you look at the customer pool, if you look at the preference of the customer, that has moved more towards the branded products. So that has really helped us in terms of supply chain. I think that there was a short-term disruption that has led to a spike in the cost of certain raw materials. But long-term, it is very good for us because it has led to a lot of plantation taking place. It has led to a lot of agroforestry, and it has ensured that there will be sustainable growth over the long term. Overall, I think post-COVID, the demand for our products has been robust, and it is likely to continue to be so.
Are you a beneficiary of any supply chain readjustments? Could you be looking at, let's say, exporting plywood also? I mean, plywood is like a bulk, it's a bulk commodity. It's not easy to ship it out. But do you see the landscape changing completely in favor of Indian manufacturing, which not only will gain market share from India, but they can also start exporting?
Oh, definitely. I would say that perhaps plywood is a category which is a little different. The quality of plywood that is used in India is particularly superior compared to most other places in the world. But if you look at laminates, if you look at MDF, if you look at particle board, there is definitely a significant export play that could take place. However, having said that, I would like to reiterate, we are very bullish on the demand story within India, and we feel that going forward, the domestic market is going to offer up ample opportunities.
There is a big shift in unorganized versus organized, and branded players are gaining market share. But the way I see, at least that's my limited understanding, correct me if my judgment is wrong, that there is competition within the branded market also. The branded players themselves are becoming very large now. So there was a time when everybody has benefited because of the shift from unorganized to organized. But now organized players are fighting amongst themselves to gain more market share.
I think you're absolutely right. But, as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So I think competition is always welcome. Today, we're in a state of very healthy competition. And going forward, I think, this is going to enable Indian companies to further improve their efficiencies, to further improve their processes. And if we want to become competitive on a worldwide scale, I think this was very much required. Today, you're seeing Indian companies scale up, you're seeing the size of capacities jump up, you're seeing Indian companies become more aggressive in the market. And this is going to lead, of course, to a further growth for the organized players in the domestic industry. We are going to expand the pool between the organized and the unorganized. But alongside that, in the international market, we are going to be far more competitive. So I think this competition is welcome.
All right. I just wanted to understand as well the steps that the company is taking as a whole in order to capitalize on the kind of growth opportunities given that by the government we have seen higher allocation to real estate and infrastructure. So how are you looking to really capitalize on some of these opportunities?
I think you're absolutely correct. The government has focused a lot on the real estate sector, whether it is in form of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, whether it is in the form of additional push on infrastructure, which will of course benefit the real estate and the housing sector. We are trying to take advantage of this opportunity in multiple ways. Firstly, like I've already said, we're trying to scale up. We're trying to create larger capacities. We're trying to create the manufacturing base in order to capture the additional demand that will be thrown up. Secondly, I think in terms of systems and processes, we are one of the first Indian companies to establish a Salesforce automation tool. We're one of the first Indian companies to establish a distributor management software. So I think there are a lot of tech plays that we are doing, which are leading to higher efficiency on our part. Lastly, I think in terms of branding, as has already been discussed, we are trying to pass on the message about our products to our customers in a larger way than we have ever done before. So I think all of these are small steps that we are taking towards our objective to grow faster and more sustainably going forward.
In the plywood industry, Sasta, Sundar, Tikau, right? Sasta plywood, Acha plywood, Tikau plywood. Do you see that? No, I'm talking about in general. In India, what does well? Sasta, Sundar, Tikau. How do you see the plywood industry migrating towards more value chain now? I mean, more branded, perhaps some quality differentiation, product differentiation. Do you see that changing?
I think that statement that you made, that is the reason that plywood is not doing well, particularly in the organized players. But post-COVID, a lot has changed. I think the Sasta Sundar Tikau sort of mantra did not work for a lot of people, particularly people who faced problems during their houses at that point in time when COVID was rampant. and we weren't being able to do anything about it. Nobody was allowed into housing societies, into houses, so on and so forth. So anyone who faced a problem at that point has become a permanent customer for organized plywood or organized wood panel products. I think the narrative has changed. I think now people are realizing the importance of quality, and this seems like a trend that is likely to stay, if not to get reinforced further.
All right, good to have you on board. Thank you so much for giving us that roundup. So that's the take that we're getting in from all of the corporate voices that we interacted with on the manufacturing boom in the country, talking a lot about how there is a lot more promise and how these companies plan to capitalize on the same. But that is